Hey, what's going on, guys? I kind of like the way these lights look, so I brought them back for this video. For this video, I wanted to find something that looked really nice but was a little expensive and see if we can't make it for a fraction of the price. And for a while now, I've had my eye on this coat rack. It's wall mounted, it looks super simple, just a slab of concrete with some dowels sticking out of it. Yet this thing is priced at around $118. You actually can't even get it anymore, the site's shut down. Don't really know what happened there, but all the better for us because we're gonna make it ourselves. This week for our copycat concrete project, we're making this coat rack. Alright, this thing is so easy. We're using foam for the mold for the concrete part. For the pegs, we're going to cut a dowel into 7 pieces and lay those into the mold. The only other thing we need is a way to fasten it to the wall. For this, I'm using eye hooks that will set into the concrete as it cures. I absolutely love how easy it is to use that hot wire foam cutter, so again we're using it for this project. I traced the block of wood I had lying around to get a shape for the base, and then I cut that out of the foam. Once I had that piece cut out, I glued it to a flat piece of foam to act as our base. So right there you have our basic negative mold. Our concrete base is going to be 1 inch thick, since that's exactly how thick the foam is. Next, we're going to cut out the pegs. To figure out the sizing for these is fairly simple. My pegs only stick out about 2 inches, but I would recommend going to 3 just so you have a little bit more to work with. Whatever length you pick, add 2 inches onto it. That's because we're going to lose 2 inches, 1 to the concrete and 1 to the foam base that we stick the pegs into while it cures. Once you have the dowels all cut out, we're ready to fit them into the mold. I eyeballed things to the point where I was happy with them and stuck them in place. The inch of foam on the bottom will help keep things secure. Now the mold is all ready, you can set that aside and we'll mix up the concrete. For the concrete, we're going to be using Rapid Set's mortar mix. This stuff is extremely low aggregate and will leave us with a nice smooth surface. We're also going to add Rapid Set's flow control into our mix. That will bring the concrete to a much thinner consistency and will make it a lot easier to pour. Now out of the bag, Rapid Set will cure into a light tan grayish color. I wanted things to be more on the gray side for this because I think it will contrast the wood nicely. So I also picked up a bottle of charcoal colored liquid cement colorant. All you do is mix this in as you're mixing the cement, and that will darken things to a nice charcoal color, which is exactly what I wanted. Honestly, I probably could have put in a little bit less colorant because it came out a lot darker than I was expecting, but the end result still looks great. That's completely up to you. Just start with a little bit and keep mixing it until you see the color you want. One last thing we need to do before we pour the concrete is to set these eye hooks into place. I used my hot wire foam cutter, but you can definitely use a knife for this, and I made 2 small slits in the top edges of the foam to set these into. I tried to get them as close to the middle of the foam as I could so that they would have plenty of concrete to grab onto as it cured, and that would leave things nice and secure. After everything was cured, it was time to break it out of the mold. This process was super easy. All I did was break off the sides until I could free it from the mold. So now we have our coat rack, but there's still pegs sticking out of the back. I used a handsaw to saw those off as flat as I could and then sanded off any remaining wood. I also sanded the tips of the pegs since they were still rough from when I originally cut them. At this point, I used a file to clean up the edges of the coat rack. I also went ahead and beveled the edges to give it a more sophisticated look. The file worked just fine, but I ended up also using a grinder, and that made things a lot easier. I also got a little carried away with the grinder and tried to grind one of the pegs down to see what would happen, and that burnt the tip of the peg and left this nice smoky aroma in the air. So now that I messed up one of the pegs, I had to go back and burn the rest of them so that it would look like something I did on purpose. And I'm honestly not mad about the way that looked. Now that I had everything cleaned up and looking pretty much how I wanted it, it was time to seal it. This time around, I'm going with Ghost Shield's Acrylitech 5505. This is their decorative high gloss concrete sealer that will leave things with a nice wet look. Before you apply this stuff, make sure you tape off the dowels so you don't get any sealer on the wood, and applying it is as simple as brushing it on. And I let that cure overnight. I think we absolutely nailed this thing. Dare I say it came out looking even better than the original. The color of the concrete in contrast with the wood, as well as the sealer, really ties everything together. It has that awesome modern industrial look, and it's completely practical. Looking back now, it might have been a better idea to angle the dowels upward. That way things would stay on easier and not really slip off as much. But other than that, I think we really hit a home run here. Who knows, maybe we can even sell this thing for $120. Also, one peg is not really aligned perfectly, but I'll let you go ahead and figure out which one that is. And that about wraps things up. Guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you want more content like this. You can check out more projects just like this one on our Trowel and Error playlist. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.